Welcome to the Fly High Eagles podcast, where we talk birds and the latest in NFL news. Good morning, champs. Super Bowl 59 champs. What's good? Let's see what Chris has to say. Chris Sims never has anything to really say good.
Happened to the Chiefs is because we said it last year. It's just like, oh, they can't just turn it on in the playoffs, and they turn it on in the playoffs.
Exactly.
Like, they're not this much better than everyone else, and they win the whole thing. So why couldn't they do it again? Well, because of that D. And while Jalen Hurts was the MVP, we'll give him his flowers as well later on. I mean, really, if you could give a true MVP to this game,
you need to give him his flowers
the Eagles.
first.
They totally wrecked this game. I don't know if you disagree with that.
No, I don't.
Realistic Take says, damn okay to the Eagles D. For as good as they've been all year, it's almost like they got overlooked at times because of the stars on the Eagles O.
Yeah.
Absolutely dominant performance. The D-line caused havoc all game, made Mahomes shockingly rattled, looked just like that Super Bowl in Tampa.
Yeah, it did.
Crazy thing, we've been talking about the defense all year. As Philly fans, we've been talking about the defense all year. Now they want to give us credit. But ESPN didn't have no problem throwing up graphics letting us know how Patrick Mahomes has shredded or beaten a number one defense. They weren't us. They weren't Big Fangio. It wasn't Jalen Carter. It wasn't Zach Bond. It wasn't the two best rookie corners in probably NFL history, Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, who had the pick six. Jersey bought. And I like how they tried to move Jalen Hurts to the end of the segment. Our captain, our leader, our guy, Super Bowl MVP. But let's continue.
It had a lot of similarities to that Super Bowl in Tampa. And, yeah, this is why, I've joked around and said this Eagles team is an all-star team. I mean, you've heard me say that. It's position groups that are definitely the best in football.
But we didn't think they'd look that.
I love that they call us an all-star team, which the majority of our roster we drafted. We acquired A.J. Brown through a trade. Nobody thought it was going to be a big deal. Everybody was asking, who's going to get him the ball? That offensive line, we drafted that offensive line. Minus Mekhi Becton, which we picked up with Zach Bond and Saquon Barkley. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who should have never left, came back, solidified that secondary along with our rookies. Darius Slay. Yeah. I like that they try to call us a super team now. No, we just draft and fucking develop. Let's talk about, what's my O-line coach now? I'm sorry. Stoutland. Let's talk about Stout, who's really getting it done. Next man up mentality, it doesn't matter. Mekhi Becton went out the game. Tyler Steen stepped in. There was no drop-off. None.
Dominant.
No, I did not think they looked like that dominant. Not like they did last night. No, certainly. Josh Sweat certainly could have been an MVP last night.
Yeah.
The 2.5 sacks, and he's the guy that caused the second interception by Mahomes because he basically knocked Joe Thuney right into the back of Mahomes as he's throwing the ball, and that's why the ball.
But let's pause it here. Josh Sweat, draft pick. Million Williams, draft pick. Moro Jumbo, draft pick. Nola Smith, draft pick. Jellis Hunt, draft pick. Jalen Carter, draft pick. Jordan Davis, draft pick. Zach Pond, free agent. Brandon Graham, OG, draft pick. We draft great.
All went, off target and got intercepted by Zach Bond. So he was certainly capable of that. And you've heard me say this too before. In games like this, right? This is where if you do have a defensive line and it's an alpha group, as we know, and they got freaks here. It's not like it's just like, oh, we don't know who this guy is or he has nothing special. Their backups are special. That's where they're in a different class than most teams. They're back four or they're 5, 6, 7, 8 on
players
the line would probably
Philly.
Start for a majority of teams in football. Right?
Start
That's
of an
how
era.
good they are. And when you're told all week, right, like the Giants were in Super Bowl 42 against Tom Brady and company, right? Maybe like the Bucs were told against Mahomes the first time around. We can't win the Super Bowl unless you guys get there. We can't win the Super Bowl unless you guys get there. We can't win the Super Bowl if you guys got to dominate the game. And then, of course, you're hearing that every day in your meeting. You're watching film, right? and they're frothing at the mouth by the time the game gets here. Let alone we're playing a Chiefs offensive line that hadn't been an issue for 2 years, really. The greatness of Mahomes covers the Band-Aids there, but then of course we have injuries on top of that this year too. So the game starts with the front four. When you can, they don't blitz one time.
So here's
blitz.
the next gen stats on that. The Eagles
Crazy
did not
work.
blitz once across 42
Didn't
dropbacks
blitz.
in the Super Bowl. Just the fourth
What?
defense to not blitz in a game in the next gen stats era. Relying on the front four, the Eagles generated 16 pressures, sacked Mahomes 6 times, his most in a game in his career. I mean, that
says it
the
all.
stat of the Super Bowl.
Ahmed, 4-man rush, and if you didn't look at the rush and you just saw Mahomes in the pocket and we just canceled it out, you'd go, they must be blitzing everybody. He's ducking everywhere. But no, it was a 4-man rush. Some of those were 4-man rushes against 6-man, 7-man protections, and they still were there in half a second. So again, I know people are already on Mahomes and he's not
Josh
the
Sweat
GOAT
wrecked
and
the
all
game.
that. You know,
I was
this
expecting
wasn't
Nolan
fair
Smith to
Mahomes.
wreck the game,
That's
but
what
the
I would
fact
tell
that
you.
Josh Sweat
There's
did
been
it,
very few
respect.
quarterbacks that have gotten to the Super Bowl and been in this situation with this caliber of team and offense and talent. And that's where it hurt him. But yes, that's where the game was incredible. The fact that you heard me say a million times, hey, the Eagles better play man-to-man. If they play zone defense, right, he's going to pick them apart. Well, I was wrong. I obviously didn't even realize how much better the Eagles were.
Mm-hmm.
Vic Fangio went back on film. He was like, no, Chris Sims, you're wrong. You're wrong. We can beat them doing exactly what I've been doing the whole year.
Yeah.
And actually be the simplest I've been in any game all year. Pete had the numbers already. I mean, it's
Best
cover
secondary
4,
in the
same
NFL.
coverage 60% of the game.
Yeah.
Best
Right?
secondary
So
in
that
the
just tells you
NFL
that they
and
were
for
like,
years to come.
Wait, so
We're not
our
going anywhere.
Physical matchup, and we don't feel like there's any way in any area where we feel like we can be exposed.
The Eagles played zone coverage on all but 2 dropbacks, specifically cover 4.
Yeah.
60% of the time, the third highest rate by a defense in a game since 2018. Highly unsatisfying if you're Vic Fangio. You win your Super Bowl, you're defensive coordinator, and it's like you don't have to do anything. You just sit there.
Yeah, well, this is where it just became, hey, coach my guys what to look for, right? We're going to be in this defense and play fast, and we don't need to trick it up against them because we don't feel like there's any area that stresses us. And why do they play cover 4, people might ask? Well, it takes away cover 4, the safeties are more up in the middle of the field. So you do RPOs, right? And you're trying to hit that slant over the middle, and it ain't going to be there with the safety in cover 4. So that's not going to be there. It's going to make things hard for Kelsey over the middle of the field a little too. A little 10-yard in cut. All those, the safeties are going to be there. So that's tough. Let alone it can help out with the run game a little bit, which, again, was not even a factor in the game. Without blitzing and playing cover 4 with 2 safeties deep the whole game, they couldn't run the ball at all. That speaks, again, to the absolute ass-whooping that, Ahmed, I know you believe me.
Belt to ass.
My third note of the game was
Belt to
the
ass.
Chiefs look outclassed. I mean, the Chiefs are really in trouble.
The Philadelphia
They are not
Eagles are the
they
class
not
of the
physically as the Eagles.
NFL.
So right away,
We
I
are
did
the
not
standard.
like the look of the game.
We
And
keep the main
so
thing the main
those
thing.
so they take away the RPOs.
We
they
go
take
out
away
there
that,
and
then
hunt.
the other aspect of cover 4
And next
and
year,
where it says,
repeat.
you know what else it tells me? They weren't worried about one receiver. Because cover 4 basically becomes man-to-man on the outside. That's what it becomes. Because the
We're
safeties
not
are doing
worried
all those
about
things I just told you
receivers
about.
because
So
we
they're
have the
basically
best
out there
secondary
playing
in the
man-to-man.
NFL.
And that just tells you they were like, we're not worried about Hollywood Brown or
No.
Xavier Worthy
No.
or slow DeAndre Hopkins or Juju
No.
Smith-Schuster. We feel like we match up great with the 2 of those guys are small.
Hopkins out here talking about refs. Bro, catch the rock.
And fast that can't take any physical aspect of route running, and the other 2 guys are physical but can't run away from anybody. So they were like, this is great, fine, we'll just stop over the middle stuff and they won't be able to do anything, and that's kind of what we
Gotta
saw.
sign
I do
Zach
believe
Bond.
you. I do need the timestamps, though, on those texts
Yeah.
just to make sure.
Okay,
Just
here we
send
go.
them to
Here
me.
we
I'm
go.
just
Just so
kidding.
here.
I'm just kidding.
We're gonna look though. Not in physical class. That's 7:16.
Okay,
All right,
all
that's
right.
7:16. So we're probably about 3 drives in. 7:16.
Yeah, it's a little,
Eastern time.
7:16. Yeah, we're 3 drives in. So
Three-
I'm glad I did check.
All right, enough of these guys. So, I like how they did not show Jalen Hurts any respect. Where's the respect for my QB1? Who's outplayed Patrick Mahomes twice in the Super Bowl? Got the victory. 1 turnover. Got rushed. Threw it deep. They picked it off. Out of bounds at the 2-yard line. Defense came right back at him. But why are we not talking about the quarterback? They said all we have to do is stop Saquon Barkley. They said that's all they had to do. But what happened? What happened? Jalen Hurts happened. This is the Flying High Eagles podcast. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. We will be back with more material weekly. Thank you for your time. Peace.